we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. It's me, your host, Bigmark. Hope everyone's doing great. If it's your first time here, welcome. If not, welcome back. Like I always say, go check out our Patreon, patreon.com/thebigmarkpod. If you ever want to reach out to the podcast, feel free to reach out to us anytime. Check us out on our Twitter or our Instagram at the Bigmark Pod, at the Bigmark Podcast, respectively. You can DM us there anytime. If you like the podcast, please give us a 5-star review. You want to help us out a little bit, that would be great. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but it does help us, climb the ranks, so to speak. And like I said, if you really do enjoy it, please pass it on to a friend. If you tell one friend, we can double the podcast audience overnight, just like that. Shout out to Bellwoods Brewery. I'm drinking some shumai right now. I think that's how you say it, shumi. Anyway, cheers. Nice little pale ale. It's milky. Coming from a brewery that filters all of our beer, it's always really nice to see a beautiful color like that. If you're not watching on YouTube, it's a really beautiful, like, yellow color. Yellow, like a beautiful wheat field. I did a little bit... when I came back and did this podcast, I usually do them on Tuesday nights, but I literally just came back from golfing and I wanted to do this podcast because it just kind of came to mind, and I wanted to, kind of talk to you guys a little bit more, not just do a topic. And, I really appreciate everyone who listens, and I love how you guys reach out and tell me all kinds of different things. And again, I always like to do these kind of, random, just like off the cuff ones here and there too. And, I didn't plan this one, somewhat impromptu, which is always fun. But I guess it's a little bit serious, try and keep it as light as possible. But again, it's like Carl Jung says, no tree climbs to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. So, you got to kind of look at the shadow every once in a while and look at the darker side of things. And it's ironic that I'm coming right from golf to talk about this, but I wanted to talk about, I want to talk about a lot of things, but I kind of wanted to talk about pain today. And I know it sounds like a really heavy word, and, it's a pretty heavy subject, but I was playing out there today, and it was a little bit frustrating, I have to admit. I've done my golf episode already, so I won't bore all you guys that aren't into golf, but it wasn't great out there. And, sometimes you win some, you lose some. And, I've been an athlete my whole life, or was a serious athlete for most of my life. And I dealt with a lot of pain. It's part of sports. That's what they always say, I grew up playing mostly basketball, but football, it's got to be up there with one of the most painful sports. Probably that, any type of like combat sport is definitely more painful. And then like rowing, because it's just like you're just fucking cranking it, dying at every second of that sport. And the training is grueling and you're up at crazy hours. Rugby's got to fucking feel like shit. Again, at least with football, at least your face is pretty protected, so you don't really feel like that. And all that equipment makes you feel pretty invincible. But that kind of leads to more injury. But, growing up playing basketball, taking elbows to the face, just look at if anyone was watching the NBA playoffs, the Toronto Raptors just played Philadelphia 76ers, and Pascal Siakam at one point elbowed Joel Embiid in the face, and he kept playing and went on, but he elbowed him real good, and he ended up fracturing his orbital bone. And you want to talk about pain, there's some pain right there, right? Like it's, you're exposed, right? As much as basketball is, considered relatively non-contact, you're not wearing any equipment. You got shoes on, that's it. Great, you got fucking shoes. Maybe if you're like Charles Barkley or like Hakeem Olajuwon or something, maybe you rock the knee pads, but no one, that's it. There's no other like protective gear unless you like, fracture your skull or your face or something. You have to wear a face mask. You look like Phantom of the Opera out there. You're exposed. But again, any sport comes with injuries. You can fucking hurt yourself playing volleyball. You can roll your ankle. And it's funny. There's obviously people have different degrees of pain if you want to look at it like that. And there's different ways of feeling that kind of pain. And, I think about the quote a lot, the worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. You can't compare fucking terrible events to people. If you lived a cushy life and the worst thing that's ever happened to you is that, your car got towed or something, you got a parking ticket, then that is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And that fucking sucks. It's great on the scale of things that you've lived a pretty cushy life, but I understand that that's the worst thing that you've experienced. So you're going to kind of act accordingly. I understand. But different people experience different levels of pain, and there's different ways. And, there are people, and I mean, not to get too technical on things, but there are 3 types of pain. There's nociceptive pain, which is essentially like your pain receptors in your body feeling that. There's the one type of pain. Neuropathic pain, meaning there's something in your actual nerves, either pinching your nerves or damaging your nerves somehow. There's pain associated with that. And then there's functional pain, essentially. It's kind of a mix of the two, but it's also like, it's not really, the source of the pain isn't really from anything, and it only hurts when you do something like this or blah, blah, blah. And like my dad always said, well, if it hurts when you do that, then don't do that. But, again, there's different levels of pain. People are experiencing different levels of pain. Obviously, women, females, people who can give birth experience that type of pain, but, who knows if that, I mean, I'm sure we could ask an athlete out there, someone who's, blown their back out or tore their knee up or had a severe injury, and how that would, compared to childbirth kind of thing. But that is such a different level of, and it's interesting, and the psychology of that is interesting too, where it's like that there's so much pain, there's so much heaviness involved. Why evolutionary wise is that thing? Is it just because there's so many nerve endings down there for the female kind of giving birth kind of thing? Is that all because everything is down there? They're feeling that and they're experiencing all that pain there, but it's also spiritually and energetically kind of coming from the root, and there's so much pain involved, but then there's so much happiness and there's so many endorphins. And that's another strange thing about pain, is that at certain levels of pain, or at least certain durations of pain, your body either adapts to it or your body actually releases endorphins. You talk about the runner's high, that comes from the pain of running. It's not great, but at a certain point, your body actually releases endorphins, which is actually part of your endogenous cannabinoid system. It releases a THC-like molecule called an anandamide. And that's actually what gives you that high, is actually similar to a marijuana high, or a cannabis high. So if anyone's never smoked cannabis out there, but you've had a runner's high, then you kind of know what it feels like. And if you don't feel like running for 45 minutes or whatever it is, go smoke a doobie or whatever. But again, and then you have masochists and stuff, that people actually who derive pain from pleasure. And they actually derive pleasure from pain. If things are on somewhat of a continuum, if things are circular, it's just like a bad movie, right? A bad movie can be so bad that it's good, right? There's almost like that threshold where there's so much, your body's experiencing so much pain, it almost flips over, and the only thing it can do is experience pleasure. And I've talked about David Goggins too, about kind of pushing yourself through that and getting through that pain. And again, it's a teaching method, and who knows why it's so involved in the childbirthing process, but is there something that bonds the mother and child through that? It's painful for the baby, but the baby doesn't necessarily remember it. The mother always will. Is that, it's very interesting. It just, again, I'm no evolutionary biologist, but, what is that kind of thing that why do we experience so much discomfort and so much pain? Is it because our heads are so big? Like, other animals seem to be relatively uncomfortable, and childbirth is always a gamble, when it comes to any species, by the sounds of it. But do other animals experience it as much as humans? I'm not sure. The one problem too is our heads as babies, right? Think of a baby's head. It's so much bigger compared to the rest of its body. And that, has given humans the advantage with a larger brain and all that stuff. But that head has to actually fit through the birth canal too, right? So why it's very interesting. Why would a human grow that big that it would become trouble, and then you have to have a C-section, you have to do all this stuff, and it can kill the mother, it can do all this stuff? Like, is it just it's very, very interesting. I'm just kind of thinking about it now, like, why is it such a high risk, it's, I know bringing your life into this world is of heft and seriousness and importance and responsibility, and it's the perpetuation of our species, but why would it be so hard and painful? I don't know. To get kind of back on track here, as much as, I guess there's kind of a fourth pain. I talked about 3 different types. I guess there's kind of a fourth, it would be like mental pain, like mental anguish. Like, again, I was dealing with some anguish out there on the course today, but, dealing with heartbreak or, dealing with things like that, right? There's that kind of pain that exists, and, somatosensory stuff where, like where you, like you feel a pain somewhere that doesn't really exist, but it's all in your mind, it's in your brain. Like as they call psychosomatic pain, right? Where, you're convinced that you've injured something, or that there's a pain coming from somewhere, and there's no like kind of medical definition or medical description of the pain. That's all you can feel. And then, like legitimate heartbreak, right? Like you'd feel that in your chest. You feel that in like the center of you, though. That's the thing. It's hard to say that it's actually in your heart. And the heart and all that, the center, the kind of center of your body has come, or has become such an important part in human culture, right? As it has for centuries, right? You look at, following your heart, the Sacred Heart in Catholicism and all that stuff. And, it's obviously a metaphor for kind of following, what's within. But there is a lot of science behind the fact that there's, you have afferent and efferent neurons. So you have neurons that come from your brain or your brain stem, your spinal cord. You have neurons that come from there and go out to the body, and then you have neurons that come back from the body and go back to the brain, and they, relay a lot of information that comes from the body. Those are the efferent neurons. Those are the ones that bring, blood pressure information, and touch, sense, pain, all that stuff. Those are all efferent neurons. They're going back to the brain to tell it something is happening from the environment. you have more neurons, efferent neurons, coming from your heart going to your brain than you do from your brain to your heart. So that's suggesting that there's more information that's coming from the heart and going to the brain than there is from the brain going to the heart, which is very interesting. And it goes to show you, that kind of negative feedback loop that comes from when people do get either anxious or they get scared, or they get in a situation where they get overactive and their heart starts beating really fast, and then they kind of identify that they are, and they're like, oh my God, my heart's beating fast. And then things just kind of spiral out of control, and, heart attacks, blah, 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 whatever. But, again, what kind of information is actually coming from the heart? And there's this, wicked documentary, I Am, which I've talked about before, but, there's this Heart Math Institute that exists, and they specifically work on some of these noetic kind of concepts where, are there kind of unseen links between human beings that we don't really know, and can we actually measure them? And in fact, according to this institute, we can measure them. And, even if you look at it kind of even simpler, a more scientific approach being, that the heart is just a small magnetic pulse generator. It is a muscle, and electric pulses that come from the body make it pump. So it makes the muscles contract. And every time they contract, it actually sends a small magnetic pulse, which comes from every electric field, out into the universe, essentially until it runs into something and stops it anyway. And sometimes if a person is there's at least to us undetectable form of anyway, we somehow can attract, or sorry, we can somehow feel other people and register. I don't even know. I can't think of the word clearly, but somehow that magnetic pulse that comes from our heart, humans can actually register that, and they can sense that. It might be subconsciously right now because we for some reason aren't attuned to that, but because of that, somehow in our brains, our hearts can kind of sync up sometimes. And it's really interesting in the fact that if our brain can actually sense that, and it can actually send a signal to our heart, or our heart is somehow interpreting some of that, what does that actually mean? Did we ever actually have a connection to that? Did we actually ever know and be aware of this sense where we can feel other people's hearts? Or are those little intuitive feelings that we just chalk up to a gut feeling or whatever? Speaking of gut, that's the same thing. There's they say that you have two brains. You have your normal brain that everyone knows, and then you have your gut, which actually produces 70% of your body's serotonin. So it's almost like a small brain down there, and the convolutions and all that stuff too. But you have so many neurons, efferent neurons, like we were talking about, going back to the brain, sending a lot of information, let alone all the nutritious, dealing out and dealing with the nutrients that we ingest. That gut feeling, or that heart, that feeling in our chest, the intuition, might actually be something based in a little bit more scientific reality than we thought. It's not just completely woo-woo. But again, all these neurons and all these things, they all send information back to the brain. And again, some of that information can be pain, and you can experience it in so many different ways. And like I mentioned, mental anguish out there on the course. But one thing that really drove me today to kind of do this one, and fuck, it's heavy duty, but anyway, we're getting through it. Thanks for coming with. I got a hernia. I guess I've never really talked about it on the podcast. I got a hernia. I guess it's kind of weird to talk about. I mean, turning 31 was kind of like, all right, I guess this is where the wheels start to come off, so I better start like keeping them squeaky, or not squeaky. Anyway, greasing them. But no, I was just like kind of noticing, feeling a little slower, playing basketball this year, I was kind of like not bouncing back as quick as I used to back in the day. And I just noticed over the past couple of days, this fucking hernia has been killing me. And it was real. And I don't know, like, I don't know if I aggravated it. I don't know if I ever did it, how I did it, to be truthfully honest. I really don't know. But I think I aggravated it when I was slinging kegs for the brewery, when I was doing that delivery job. But it was mostly like, cause I fucking was like, it hurts when I bend over the most. Anyone cares or gives a shit. Hurts when I bend the most over. And if you guys know any hernia people, let me know. I've gone through some rigmarole with like the regular hospital, but they're so fucking backed up with surgeries from COVID. I don't know when I'm going to get in. There's this Schulich place, which is here in Canada for all of our listeners outside the country. It's near Toronto, and it's supposed to be like really, really well done hernia operations, and they kind of apparently treat you really well and like put you up. So honestly, if I can get in there, I might just do it, because this is fucking killing me. And it was really bugging me today out on the course. And it really reminded me, sadly, it reminded me again of the pain that athletes go through. And, you know, you look at Tiger Woods coming back, talking about golf. You know, he came back from a horrific car accident and terrible injury. And you think of all the athletes that have come back from injury and done stuff. And, you know, those are obviously all of note and people know about them. But people day in and day out, man, people in the fucking serious pain. People having to go to pain clinics and get crazy Percocets or crazy hydromorphine shit, where it's just like, it just keeps ramping up. Because like you talk about pain, there's this whole world in trying to get rid of that pain. And it starts from fucking Advil and Tylenol, and it goes all the way to fucking morphine and heroin and fucking heavy duty drugs too, where it's like, they take away your pain, yes, but at what? There's a cost, right? There's a cost. And it's almost like, does that mean we have to go through pain? You know, there's no pleasure without pain, is, I guess, you know, you talk about balance and you talk about contrast, and you have something to actually base something off of, right? You can't have darkness without light, and vice versa. Or yeah, light without darkness, I guess. I don't know. But you're with me. But again, it's like, why is it hard to get rid of pain too? You know, it takes deep meditation, takes all that. You know, I've done fucking ice plunges and shit, and that's, I guess, painful and stuff. But again, you cross through this threshold, you go past it, because I think half the fucking battle is us worrying about pain. We avoid it so much because it is a teaching tool. You know, what's the best way to learn something? You get fucking hurt doing it, and you're probably never going to do it again. Now, don't get me wrong. I remember when I was a little kid, I went tobogganing and went down a hill and went right fucking face first into a fence, and I didn't want to ever toboggan again. Now, that's a little bit extreme, I think, you know, when I look back at it, and maybe that's a marker of my personality, but it's a guide, the pain anyway. It's a guide when it comes to something like that. So what is that? What is the importance of that then, right? And why do we avoid it? Because it fucking hurts. That's why. And, you know, we try so hard not to get ourselves in pain, but again, maybe that does remind us that there are times where there isn't, or where there are times of pleasure. And again, if you talk about David Goggins, you talk about enlightenment, there is a threshold past that, you know, like David Goggins says. For anyone who hasn't seen this episode yet, he has his 60% rule. Most people quit at 60%. Experiencing pain at that point, you know, you don't think you can go any further, but most people have 40 more percent. And even David Goggins himself says, he doesn't think he's ever reached 100, but you can get to 90, you can get to 99, and you can push yourself through that. And it's a learning tool, like I said, but there's a realm, there's no other way to put it, there's a state of mind that exists when you're going through extreme pain that you can't understand unless you've gone through it. And it is strangely euphoric. It's not something you should attain, but again, there's something there. Again, I touched on the Catholic religion. You talk about Jesus. Fuck. I grew up Catholic. I went through the whole fucking thing, school, the whole thing, baptisms and all that. The whole fucking time they're talking about Jesus. They're saying his whole, Easter time, we just went through it. The whole, Stations of the Cross are just pain, man. It's pain. It's Jesus getting fucking beat up. It's Jesus wearing a crown of thorns. It's Jesus getting fucking nails driven. This is imagery as a child that you're taking in. But you look at it now and you go, that was this portal, essentially, that Jesus went through, and then he rose 3 days later, however you want to look at it. And his pain and what his what God, his Father, or whatever, put him through was to cleanse, as they say, cleanse the people of our sins. So what does that mean? That means you have to go through some fucking heavy duty, major fucking pain, and even die. And does that mean, is it an ego spiritual death? It's an ego death of somewhat, and then you're reborn 3 days later or whatever, but you're reborn. Is that what it is? That, you look at other cultures that use pain rituals, walking on coals, things like that, piercings and tattooings and things like that, where body modifications and stuff, where there's tremendous amount of pain associated with it, but you are then considered a member of the tribe then after, or you're considered a man or a woman or whatever, an adult at that point. Even in Catholicism, it's not heavy duty, but you go through a confirmation ritual where you go from, and there's questions and stuff, which were mentally taxing, again, mental anguish, but it wasn't like we had to kneel on rocks or anything, but who knows what it used to be like. But there was a ritual that you went through, and then you came out of it on the other side, as you would through a portal, a doorway, a different person. Excuse me. The shumai, baby. What is going on here? Gotta have some more. You come out of this portal a different person, a new, renewed person. And there is something cleansing about that. It's very strange. Even, in times I've done yoga and things like that, right? I've gone through extreme, intense, pain in the poses and trying to breathe my way through it and get through all that. And you come out and you feel so free and you feel so light. And it's almost like you've purged something, right? And it takes a lot of energy and all that to deal with things. But I guess when you're in control of the pain, it's a little bit more, acceptable, if that's a word. Right? I know it's a word, but if that's the word to use. But again, it's interesting. Again, you watch others go through you watch others go through deep pain, and whether they've lost someone or you've lost someone or anything like that, that pain can be so much more extended. Short bouts of pain, I guess, are teaching tools. Short bouts, even hours worth at a time, but nothing like days. And you talk about people with severe depression and experiencing things like that, and days after days, and waking up and not wanting to get out of bed or whatever, or not wanting to do anything. And it's a different type of pain. And dealing with others socially, whether they're in relationships or, at work or whatever, there's pain there, right? Where just one-on-one with someone, the amount of pain humans can cause each other is incalculable, even on grand scales too. You think about heavy duty shit like the Holocaust or the Holodomor, or things that happen in Africa and the Congo and South Africa and all over the world. Atrocities. How can we possibly inflict that on someone else? How? What happens in those moments? There's a way. It's not far. We're not far from it. Like Jordan Peterson says, we're not far. There's not that many steps between us and fucking... There's maybe a lot of steps between us and like fucking Hitler, but there's not a lot of steps between us and like, concentration camp guards. Because somebody's got to do these jobs. And in the circumstance, you never know what you're going to be and what side you're going to fall on. And what other factors that lead you there one step at a time. And all of a sudden you find yourself there. You never know. But it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine for myself. I'm not the kind of guy. I don't want to inflict pain on people. I really don't. As much as I've, all the sports I played, all the football and shit, as much as maybe I said I want to kick someone's ass or this and that, I don't want to. There's nothing in me takes pleasure or feels any satisfaction from putting anyone through pain, physical or otherwise. And it's still, I don't, I can look at it clinically and scientifically, but personally, I still don't understand why anyone would want to hurt someone. Why I'd want to punch you in the face just to get my way. And that's going to make me feel better, or again, take something from you, that you're going to be with less because I want more. I guess, I don't know, maybe that's some weird Eastern European communist stuff. But there's just something in me that's just about, fairness and equality in that sense that, I think every human lives a different life, but we all experience the same things. And if we can just understand and look at other people and say, man, I know, I get it. I know you hurt too. I hurt too. It's okay. We're going to be okay if we keep moving together, if we keep getting back up, as they say, right? It's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how many times you get back up. And I think pain comes from many different sources, physiologically or otherwise. But I think there's only one way to do it, and there's only one way to get by, and that's with others. And that doesn't mean going and leaning on other people and saying all your sorrows to them, but understanding that, hey, I know you hurt too, and I know you go through things, and so do I. And that's going to be okay. And I know you're mad, and I know you're angry and sad and scared and going through all these things all at once. But the pain that you feel now only sets the stage for the pleasure and the good things that will happen in the future. And that's the whole idea. Don't run from pain. Feel it deeply. Again, if it keeps going, consult your therapist. But again, understand that some of the things that we avoid because of that momentary pain, if we get through that and walk across those coals, and we do it, we rip that Band-Aid off, all of a sudden we're in this whole new world. We've gone through that realm. We've gone through that portal, that doorway. Although it was painful, that made us stronger, as they say too. And that got us to the next fucking level. And no matter what you're going through, no matter what level of pain you're feeling, if that's the worst pain you're feeling right now, that's the worst pain you're feeling. And I hear you and I feel you. and it's not going to last forever. The only reason it's not going to last forever is because you're going to do something about it. And you're going to go out there and you're going to talk to your doctor, you're going to talk to your friend, you're going to talk to your partner, you're going to talk to whoever needs to be talked to. Yourself, you're going to talk to your fucking self in the mirror. And everything's going to be okay. That's all I got for you guys today. I want to thank you so much for listening. This was tons of fun. I love doing these fucking impromptu ones now. I'm going to do some more. Hope you guys like it. Please let me know. Hit me up in the comments. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Wherever you're listening, please give us a 5-star review. It means a lot. And if you like it anyway, if you wanted to talk to me in any way, please reach out or on Instagram or Twitter at the Bigmark Podcast, at the Bigmark Pod. And if you wanted to donate to the podcast or help support in any way, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/thebigmarkpod. There's a few different levels that you can donate with. Again, thank you so much for listening. Anyone out there that's going through anything right now, you want to talk to me, I want to talk to you. Let's get together. If you're feeling anything, it's going to be okay. Don't worry. I love you all. Have a great day. Have a great night. If I don't see you, have a great morning. All the best. Peace.